Hi, in this video we will be discussing GMAT Official Guide 2017 edition Quant Problem Solving question number 164. Let's have a look at this question. If you look at this question, they have told A is equal to minus zero point 0.3, right? Which of the following is true? And A is a proper fraction here. What is a proper fraction? The value lies, right? The value which lies between, correct? So the value which lies between negative 1 and the positive 1, right? So that's called proper fraction, right? Proper fraction. Okay, so here if you look at it, all the answer choices have a square and a cube. They are asking which of the following is true. Since it's a negative number, then in that case squaring it, a square will make this as positive. A square is positive and a cube, right? A cube would be negative into negative into negative, which will be again negative. So a cube is a negative number, right? So if a square is positive, from if you are ordering from least to greatest, a square has to be the greatest value, right? Because a is negative and a cube is also negative, and all the option has a square and a cube. So we can eliminate the answer choices which does not have a square at the greatest value. We can eliminate answer choice C where a square is the least. In fact, D as well we can eliminate because it's again the least. And even A we can eliminate because a square is lesser than a cube, they are saying, which is not possible because a square is positive and a cube is negative. Now all we need to do is find a cube and compare with A. A is, we know already, minus 0.3. Now what is a cube? Right, a cube means a into a into a. So in that case, minus 0.3 into minus 0.3 into minus 0.3, right? So 0.3, I mean 3 into 3 into 3. 3 3s are 9, 9 3s are 27, but you have to keep 3 decimal points. So 0.0, negative into negative, positive, positive into negative, negative. Minus 0.27. Minus 0.027. Minus 0.027 would be greater than 0.3 because in the number line, right? So in the number line, if you draw, say suppose you have something, say 0, 1 here, and say minus 1 here. Negative 0.3 will be to the left of negative 0.027, correct? So 0.3 would be something, say right here, and 0.027 would be further closer to 0 than 0.3. So in that case 0.027 would be greater, right? So in that case we can eliminate the answer choice E because answer has to be here B, because a cube has to be greater than a. So answer has to be here B. So it's all about the number line here, right? In the negative, the least value with the negative number would be the greatest value, right? Magnitude of the least value would be the greater here, right? 0.27, I mean 0.027 in the magnitude is lesser, but 0.3 in the magnitude is greater. But since it's a negative, minus 0.027 is greater, right? So answer has to be here B. Hope this is clear. Now let's see what's the concept behind this question, right? So the concept or math behind this question is, remember that if x is a proper fraction, if x is a proper fraction and it's positive, right? Say suppose if x is between 0 and 1, then always x would be greater than x square, right? And x square would be greater than x cube. That is, x cube is the least and x square would be the second least and x would be the greatest. Okay, remember this. You can just plug and check. Say suppose x is equal to, say, 1 by 2. If x is 1 by 2, then 1 by square becomes 1 by 4, x square becomes 1 by 4, and x cube becomes 1 by 8. As your denominator increases, your value decreases, right? So in that case, x cube would be the least and x square would be the next least and x would be the greatest. But if x is a proper fraction, if x is greater than 1, then you know that, right? Then you know that x cube has to be the greatest and x square is the least, and x would be the least of all the three, right? For example, if you take x as 2, 2 is less than 4, 4 is less than 8. Okay, so that's the thing, right? So when you are whenever the x value is between 0 and 1, if it is a proper fraction, when your denominator increases, the value decreases. So x cube has to be less than x square, has to be less than x. Now what about x value between minus 1 and 0? right? If x value is between minus 1 and 0, then remember that this is the order. I mean, the answer choice we got, that would be the order. X square has to be the greatest and x cube would be the next greatest and x would be the least. Okay, because why this x square becomes greater now? Because for the fact that x square now is a positive number, right? So negative into negative will make it as positive, and x cube would be negative into negative, but no, negative into negative into negative, it's still a negative number, but in a negative number the least value has to be the greatest. So making the fraction, right, denominator get increases. Let's try x is equal to minus 1 by 2. So minus 1 by 2 means x square will become 1 by 4 and x cube will become minus 1 by 8. Now denominator become increases, the value get decreases, but since it's a negative number, the least value has to be the greatest, right? So that means least value of a magnitude, right? It has to be the greatest. So it is nothing but here x cube is greater than x and x square has to be greater because it's a positive number. Right? So remember this order for a proper fraction. For a proper fraction between x between 0 and 1, always x cube is greater than, x cube is lesser than x square, and which has to be further lesser than x. Okay, that is x is greater than the x square and the x cube. The greater the power, the value would be lesser because your denominator get increases. Okay, I hope this is clear. Answer has to be here b, right? A cube has to be less than a square because it's a proper fraction but a negative, right, between minus 1 and 0. So answer has to be a cube and a square. That should be the order. So answer has to be b here. Hope this is clear. Thank you.